is up, everybody? It is Alex from Heavy New York calling from Zoom again. This time we are here with Mattias of Nekromant. Thank you so much for being here today. It's great to have you here.
Hello, hello. It's very nice of you to have me.
Yeah, it's awesome to have you here, and thank you for giving us some new music to sort of close out 2021 with. We got Temple of Hail out. How was the overall making of this album? Was there kind of like a preconceived idea? How did Temple of Hail sort of see the light of day?
Well, no, both yes and no. I would say we never do it like in a preconceived manner. I would say we are very much a band that makes things in a natural way. I would say it's not like we sit down and figure out what this next album is going to sound like and how it's going to be like. It just kind of happens to be what we feel is meaningful at the time. However, the main difference on this album from the last album was that we went away with the recording and stayed at the studio for 2 weeks, which was a great experience. It was allowed us to really immerse ourselves in the process of recording, which we never really have gotten a chance to do before. But other than that, it's pretty much basically what we've been doing for the last 7, 8 years. We try to make music that feels meaningful to us at the time.
Mhm. I know like some artists aren't a fan of the of this question. What does the record name mean? But the Temple of Hell, like, is this like a specific setting that's like a historical reference, or is it almost kind of like a representation of who you or the band are? Where does that sort of meaning, the Temple of Hell, sort of come from?
I know there's a lot of musicians don't really like that question. I think it's kind of ridiculous not to like it, especially when you have a fucking pretentious name like Temple of Haal.
Yeah.
It calls for a question, obviously. Haal is a reference to the place that we live in, the place that we grew up in. It's a reference from the 1300s, I think, the 13th, 14th century, something like that. It's a mountain. It's called Halleberg in Swedish. It's a very People have been living on this mountain and under the mountain for a very long time, and it's steeped in all sorts of legends and folklore and local myths. So that was kind of easy to put into a heavy metal setting, I think.
Yeah. Well, I don't know what it is, but I just think anything in Sweden now, maybe it's just because, Sweden is the metal capital of the world, but I just think anything Swedish, you could just make a metal album about it. It's really insane on just how, like, how in Sweden they're able to look at, the
Yeah.
past, they're able to look at the present, they're able to look at culture, geography, history, all these different aspects.
Mhm. Well, I've been getting a lot of questions in other interviews, like, oh, what's it like living in Sweden and recording an album that is about an historical place? And they think that people in Sweden like live in huts and worship trees. But we are in fact, contrary to popular belief, a modern country in the Western world. So we have all the things that you guys have over there, I guess.
You
But sure, I mean, there's a lot of great bands from Sweden. I don't know really why that is. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, Swedes are pretty much the same as any Europeans or some Americans as well. We are modern, like Western people, pretty much.
yeah.
But for some reason, there's like Swedish people are very good with melodies
Yeah.
for some reason.
Well, I also think Sweden has some of the best pop music. Like Kent, I think is one of the best pop
Sure,
bands ever,
sure.
and
ABBA.
of course ABBA, but everybody knows ABBA, and I think Kent is criminally underrated in the States.
Oh
So
yeah, yeah, no, no, and that's funny that you say Kent, because everybody in Sweden, regardless if you're a metalhead or not, or if you like hip hop or anything, everybody kind of likes Kent.
yeah,
That's like the Bob Marley of Sweden. Everybody likes Bob Marley, no matter what you listen to. It's still all right. I mean, it's still good.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, sure. And we got a lot of good pop bands, and I mean a lot of good folk music as well. The folk music from here is kind of easy to recognize. I think it got very like clear melodies, and it's very easy to get hooked on it.
Definitely. And
Mm.
going back to this album, like, would you consider Temple of Hail or Temple of Hal? Sorry if I pronounced it
No,
incorrectly,
it's all right.
but like, is it almost kind of like a concept album on this mountain that you were talking about? Do you almost consider this to be a concept album where every song kind of addresses this?
I mean, sure, in a way, it's not every song on the record is about this, but most of them are. I wouldn't call it like a complete concept album, because that entails that you have to like have a red thread to follow all over the record, and that's not really the case. We have some songs that are about other stuff, but sure, I mean it is kind of a tribute to our hometown. We're a trio in the band. We all come from the same little town. It's called Vargön. Straight translation for that is Wolf's Island.
Wow.
Which is weird because there are no wolves and it's not an island, so it's a it's a stupid name. But yeah, and we all three of us have kind of close ties to this place still. Me and Adam, the guitar player, we still live here. There are actually two mountains, and we live on one each, pretty much.
Oh wow!
Yeah, but our drummer Jocke, he lives in Gothenburg, as many people from here do. This is this town is it's a dying town, and it's been dying for the last 40 years. It's been an industrial place, and the industries haven't disappeared. There are some left, but they are really, really scaled down. So the people that still live here are like the strugglers, the people that just cling on to the past very much.
Yeah.
And I don't know, but maybe that's why it's always been so surrounded with like folklore and myths and legends, stuff like that, because people are very nostalgic about it.
Yeah, I heard Peter from Hypocrisy is actually the mayor of the town he lives in, which only has like 100 people or something like that.
Oh, he is?
Yeah, I'm hearing rumors about that. So.
All right. I mean, it's not impossible if you live in a small. I mean, in this place this is considered like a large town in Sweden. It's like 7,000-8,000 people. So it's not like 10, but sure, if you're, I think he's from the north somewhere. I'm not sure, but up in the north there are really like places, where there are 10 people living. They don't even bother putting their last names on the mailbox because they all know who the guy is.
Yeah. Well, one of my favorite musicians from Sweden, Kim Carlson, who used to sing for the black metal band Life Lover. He would said in an interview one time that he lives in a town with like less than 300 people, and like to get groceries, like it's still like an hour and a half walk, and like
sure.
So like I think one of the reasons why so much metal is from Sweden is because it's cold, it's dark, and you guys have been isolating before it was cool in 2020.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, that is absolutely true. I can't wait to go back to the normal when we keep 5 meters distance instead of 2. This is weird.
Yeah.
When people say that we keep in 2 meters distance, that's too close for us. We need like 10.
Yeah.
It's of course, when you grow up here, as well as when you grow up anywhere else, you don't see it as weird when you're used to it. But you can almost feel that anyway here, because if you're standing at the bus stop here, and you're standing there with, let's say it's 5 people waiting for the bus. If you stand like 5 meters closer to anyone else, and if you, God forbid, start talking to someone, they will consider you a maniac. That is crazy to do in Sweden.
Yeah.
If you walk into a bus, if you're gonna ride on the bus, and you sit next to someone when there's a seat available that is not next to anyone, they will consider you like, oh, he's either drunk or insane.
Yeah. Well, I live in New York City, population, 8 million people, and if somebody sits directly next to me with open seats, I kind of want to punch him in the face too. So
really?
Yeah,
it's a thing.
Yeah, it's a thing.
Okay.
It's a thing. Like if there's open, it's understandable if all the seats are taken and that's the last seat. But if there's open seats and somebody sits directly next to me, I'm normally I'm like, get the fuck away from me. Like.
Oh really? I didn't know that. I thought you Americans were very wanted to talk to people and wanted to have connections with people. Not
in New York. We hate everybody.
Oh really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Then we have something in common.
As a vocalist for Nekromant, have you always needed to hear the music before you came up with the lyrics, or could a lyrical idea maybe dictate the direction of the sound?
Both ways. I mean, it's really different from song to song. I tend to write all the songs as well. That's not a rule in the band by any means. It just so happens that I have more time to put into this. But it usually goes like I have an idea about a song. Maybe I have a couple of songs ready, and I feel like I need to have a fast song or a slow song to complement the others. Then I'll try to get the idea done almost before any of the riffs are done. and you need to have a kind of a riff and kind of a good song melody. If you have both of those, then you will probably have a decent song. I'm not sure whether the lyrics. I mean, the lyrics never come first for me. That is not the main focus for me at all. The lyrics are there in my mind to enhance the feeling of the song and to complement the feel of the song very much. So I don't think I've ever written any lyrics first. No.
Okay. And yeah, being that you have to write the song first, and you also play bass, which means that like, you have to focus on rhythm and melody at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I would be lying if I say it isn't hard to play bass and sing at the same time. It is, sure, but you get used to it. And the reason I started singing was that we didn't find any other singer. You know, we had a singer in the like really really early days, like 10 years ago, when it was just me and Adam and unlimited amount of studio time pretty much. We made a demo with another singer and he was great, but he had another band and had some kids and stuff like that. So, and after that we kind of never really found another singer. We tried a couple of people but it really didn't work out. So I finally got sick of it and decided to try it myself, and I've been working at it ever since pretty much. And to play bass as well in the beginning was, I think it was kind of a way to hide a bit, when you're a new singer, you're not too confident in your skills. And if you play bass, then you can at least blame that if something goes wrong. So, but I've been playing bass since I was like 15. Wow. Yeah, I mean, I would be lying if I told you that I thought it was easy, because it's not. But you get used to it very much. Yeah. And I think it's way easier now to play bass and sing than to play guitar and sing.
Yeah, it's more common now too. Like I mean, before, like the only three people I know of that sang and play bass was Sting, who I consider to be one of the greatest musicians ever. Lemmy from Motorhead, obviously, and Peter Steele of Typo Negative. And it seems like those were the only three. And now, like, it's gotten more common and it's gotten more acceptable, I guess. I guess people are so used to the bass players being the rejects in the band, which is so messed up to say, that like they're like, oh, he's a front man now. I'm like, yeah.
Well, you can't forget Rush though. Yeah. I mean, that guy opened a whole world of singing bass players, I would say.
Yeah.
And I think it's a little bit of a difference between being a singer that plays bass or a singing bass player. Because it's kind of hard to wrap your head around sometimes which is more important, it's it's difficult, but for sure, I mean, it's becoming way more accepted. I mean, I never felt that it was anything odd with it to sing and play bass, but yeah, that's what happens when you can't find a singer. Then you have to like do it yourself very much.
I think a lot of singers have gotten the job just by default. So.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And do you find it, being a trio, do you find it maybe easier to come up with ideas when you're more alone and like, there's really nobody to kind of like bother you when writing music, or is it easier to maybe come up with new ideas when you're the company of your other bandmates?
Well, to make a song from scratch or to make a record from scratch, personally, I like to be alone when I do that. When I like make the skeletons of the song pretty much. But the other two contribute immensely as well. They are not by any means unresponsible for the songs on the album. I come to them with skeletons and an idea, and then we finish it together. So they are absolutely co-writers.
Mm-hmm. How do you know when you're finished with the song?
You're never finished with a song.
Yeah, I hear that all the time.
You just kind of have to. Sometimes you just kind of have to pull the plug on it, because you can't listen to it one more time, because then it will lose its magic.
Yeah, I mean, how many times have we heard like "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey? I fucking hate that song now. Like every time I hear it every time I hear it in a bar, that's when I go to the bathroom or like I go out for a cigarette or something like that. But obviously, it's a song that resonated with people. But how many times could like the meaning of a song like lose its meaning because you hear it so many times,
I mean, I think that's really common, because a song of that caliber, of "Don't Stop Believing" by Journey, obviously if I never heard it before, it's obviously a great song. It's well made and it's a good song, but that song and many others like it kind of become a meme in the end,
Yeah.
They kind of become a joke.
Yeah, I've been drinking.
Not that people like don't like it, but it's like it's kind of hard to enjoy some of those songs without being drunk, you know.
I
And I
think
think that's a pretty good
I,
like thing to know when it's done.
yeah, and I think even when you're drunk, like for instance, I could go the rest of my life without hearing "Walk" by Pantera again. I could go the
Oh yeah,
rest of my
for
life.
sure. I
But
mean, they have made so many great songs, and that's the one that people love. It's
and I don't even
that's
think that that's the best song in their catalog, even when I first heard it.
oh, not
Like
at all, not at all.
yeah, like I mean, hell, 5 Minutes Alone, which is another hit. I mean, that has a lot more groove to it and everything like that. It's just, and the lyricism behind it captures the rage of Pantera. Like Walk is almost just kind of like, I mean, I'm gonna get so much shit on YouTube for saying this, but I don't care. But like, that's almost just like lyrically, it's just like any other hardcore song. But with the other Pantera songs, I mean, like Revolution Is My Name. Why isn't that looked at as like one of the greatest Pantera songs? Like
Sure, I mean, I totally agree with you. I never really liked Walk either. I mean, it's a good song, sure, and Dimebag is always Dimebag. He very much carried that band for me at least. But it's a simple song. It's an easy song to wrap your head around the first time you hear it, and people like that because I've been told at least that not all people are musicians. In Sweden, everybody is a musician. There are no metal fans in Sweden. There are only musicians, and they come to your shows and judge you on your gear. That's what they do.
yeah,
But I kind of understand that a lot of people that maybe aren't musicians, don't play anything, and don't really care to. They like an easy song, They like a instantly recognizable song that is straight to the point, forward. And then I guess Walk is the most straight to the point song that Pantera made. So.
yeah, it's to the point. I mean, it is like a gateway metal song, but again, I think like the more I think it's always great when a song is a hit, but the longer it's a hit, the more it becomes shit. That's my saying.
Oh, that's a good quote. I'm going to quote you on.
Please do, please do. Uh, and but when you like to get like this inspiration, because like obviously this came place. Temple of Hall is is like a geographical reference, but like do you almost like look for inspiration, or do ideas just kind of like come out of the blue? Because Temple of Hall is something, as you mentioned, it's been played a huge role in your life for a long time, but like in terms of other concepts, where do you cultivate these ideas?
Well, for me, and I think for the other guys in the band as well, the main inspiration is just to have the ability to write as good as a metal album as you can. That is always the main inspiration, to be able to have this band and to be able to do what we do and do what we love. That is inspiration in and of itself for me. As far as like the lyrical topics go, I mean, that's not really like, I don't really consider that inspiration. That is more like taking a subject and putting it into a heavy metal setting. There's no need really to have great inspiration to write decent lyrics. I think the inspiration lies in the music predominantly.
Definitely. So before we go, I want to thank you so much for your time and for such a fun interview. I love to drift off and like talk about other things as well.
Oh yeah, sure, for sure.
Is there just anything else with Nekromant that you would like to promote? Is there a chance you could bring Nekromant to the States one day? We would love to have you here.
Well, we would love to go, of course. I mean, the way things are going now with the pandemic and stuff like that, nobody knows anything, obviously. But the way things are going in the band and our determination to keep going, I think it's inevitable that we'll sometime end up over there. So I really look forward to that.
Yeah, and we look forward to having you here. But thank you so much, everybody. We are here with Mattias of Nekromant. Be sure to check out Temple of Haals if you haven't already. We'll see you next time on Heavy New York.